Come to order. Calling the roll, Dr. DeMello.
Present.
Mr. Enos.
Present.
Mr. Fiore is present. Consulting the agenda, there are no student activities accounts to deal with this evening. Next, we have a memorandum on use of facilities. If there are no questions, it would be in order to just move to receive and place it on file.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, so voted. Then we have a memorandum on changing in the disposition of surplus supplies based on transition to a new procurement officer for the city. I don't know if Mr. Cabral or Mrs. Moynihan have any comments on it?
I would ask Mrs. Moynihan to walk us through the memo and discuss the rationale.
Thank you, Superintendent Cabral. If you look into that memorandum that is in your packet, what happens is, of course, currently we have schools that may have some extra items that will be deemed surplus. Could be that some of it is aging textbooks or equipment that is no longer being used, broken equipment. Schools will put forth and fill out the surplus sheets and then present it here to the school committee out of Finance and Law. School committee will then go ahead and deem the items surplus. Sometimes we donate them to organizations that may, another school organization overseas. Other times we dispose of them. Well, right now, with the new city procurement officer, the city procurement officer has asked the school department to collaborate with them to go ahead and bring our surplus items to an online auction. So after a surplus item or items that are brought here to the school committee, and the school committee deems them to be surplus and then turned over to the partnership with the city, the city would go ahead and put these items on the online auction, which is called govdeals.com, and then we'll propose that, and the city procurement officer will put those items on the website, and if there is a sell or a sale of the item or items, we would split the amount of money that they would sell it for. That money would then go ahead into a revolving account that would be used to purchase new supplies that originally were not budgeted. Any questions about that?
If I may, my recommendation, since this is new, I would not be opposed to making the recommendation that we try this partnership and see if it does generate revenue. And if it's something that we wish to continue, we can continue with the city. If it's something that we wish to pursue on our own, it's always something that we can always move forward and pursue on our own. So I would say we give it a chance with the city, and obviously they're doing all the work and all the heavy lifting for us. So I would propose we give it a shot.
Motion to deem they look like textbooks, as Portuguese textbooks.
Well, we should go in the policy before we go to the textbooks.
Okay.
What was that, Mr. Chairman?
The policy on the procurement is on the agenda before the disposition of the textbooks. We really need to vote on that so we have a procedure to dispose of the textbooks with. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, a couple thoughts. I agree 100% with you on that. The school committee hasn't even received any communication about this new auction process from the city.
It's not a new auction. It's GovDeals. It's been around for many years. We've used it for much larger items as well.
Right.
The difference is doing it with the city as opposed to we've always dealt in-house with our dispositions, but on the other hand...
So if I may, I believe we're not going to bypass the school committee. So any item that needs to be declared surplus will come forward to the school committee. The school committee, Finance and Law...
You still have to deem it surplus.
Will make the
Yes,
decision.
correct.
It's still your decision whether or not you want us to dispose of something because you think it's a danger or a hazard, or to donate it to another agency, or another viable option is to place it on the online auction. It's just another, tool in our tool belt as far as how we dispose of surplus equipment. So,
But you still got to deem it surplus.
but
regardless.
we're not going to bypass
Whatever
the
you're
school
gonna
committee
do.
when it comes to declaring items
Correct.
surplus.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so what's before us tonight seems to be just Portuguese language books, textbooks, and there's quite a few of them here. So I'm just wondering, were these not being used at all in the last year or two? I mean, the reason I ask is because, I like to advocate for foreign languages, of course, as we all know, a lot of the school committee members do the same. We have a Portuguese language school here in the city of Taunton that's operated as Taunton Sports Club that is always struggling for funds to purchase textbooks. And I see that some of, I don't know the actual, let me see, written dates or published dates. I just see ISBN numbers. I'm sure we can find out if we Google them. But I just kind of would like to go locally within the city of Taunton before we just put it out on the auction. And once again, not only does Taunton Sports offer the Portuguese language school, I think Taunton Eagles is hoping to do the same. I don't want to speak for the Taunton Eagles, but I can assure you that Taunton Sports is definitely looking for not only materials that the Portuguese government used to furnish to them, provide to them at no cost, but now they're struggling for monies coming from abroad. And I'd like to reach out to the soccer club first before we do anything with this.
You
Yeah.
still have to deem it, you still have to deem it surplus regardless
Right.
of what you're gonna do. So my motion is to deem it surplus property.
And by deeming it surplus property, do we automatically go into the city auction
No,
site?
you
No, you
still
don't
have,
do that.
no, this is just, in order to dispose of it whichever way you choose, or whatever the superintendent chooses to do, you still have to deem it
Okay.
a surplus.
Yeah,
So, what we've done in the past is we have declared material surplus, and the school committee has ordered us or directed me through the assistant superintendent to, like you've said, Mr. DeMello, see if there are agencies in the community, such as the Portuguese organizations you referenced, that would benefit from these materials. And if they would benefit from these materials, we would donate it to them, if that's what you direct us to do once the material is declared surplus. If they find no use for them, then we would like to know, do we dispose of them, or do we try to auction them off on the Gov site?
deals.
Gov deals.
You
So-
may try to, auction and get nothing, so there's a good chance you're gonna get nothing.
Yeah, and in the past,
honestly.
we've also reached out to other communities, other school systems,
Who want 'em.
to see if they want the textbooks, just like they've reached out to us. And this is very common practice on the MASBO listserv, where business managers are constantly listing materials that have been declared surplus, which our school system in the past has benefited greatly from.
And you still have to deem it surplus again. It's city ordinances. You have to, the city ordinance pertains to the school department as well.
So your motion is, Mr.
Motion
Enos?
is to deem the materials submitted by Mrs. Moynihan surplus material.
Second.
Would you consider making an amendment to that motion?
What is your amendment?
Would you consider amending the motion to declare surplus and see if other state agencies would like these materials?
Part of the motion. I would just left that up to you, honestly.
I think you should direct us so we know how to correct it.
well, yeah,
Part
I
of
mean,
the motion.
no, in the past, when we've had something like this, we've usually directed specifically where we should be looking to dispose of them. There've been,
So,
I know I've been involved with a few charities through the Rotary Club, and we've done some things abroad through that, and other organizations do the same thing.
So Mr. Enos, to clarify your motion, so I think you said state agency, could we amend it to say local?
You can't
schools.
say local, but you can say however you feel fit to dispose of it.
Any Portuguese instructional school in the city of Taunton through,
Actually, if you just said nonprofits, that would
Right.
cover anything.
Okay, great. Second on the amendment.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, all those opposed, so voted.
Thank you.
Then Mrs. Moynihan has a budget update for the first quarter of fiscal '23.
So the first item that we are to look at is the line item budget, which is for quarter one, which will run from July 1st through the end of September 22nd. Again, you'll see all of the account numbers, what the account name is, how much we have of an appropriation for that line item, how much we have spent for the quarter one, the balance for each line item, and the percentage of the total budget for each of those line items that we have spent. As you can see, of course, when we are only at a quarter of the budget, or a quarter of the budget year, that would be about 25%. So if you're looking at the bottom where it is total, we currently have spent through September 30th, 9.28% of our budget. So again, less than our quarter at the quarter mark. There are some items or line items that are a little bit higher or have expended more than what we had allocated, but that does happen on some line items. One of them, of course, is you'll see is 2455, the instructional software, where we have expended a lot more than what we had allocated. And again, sometimes we'll do that when we start preparing for the next school year's budget. We'll look to see what we had allocated before or appropriated for, how much we really spent, and do we really need to change the way we budget and increase our budgeting for that. Now, here for the software system, instructional software line, that is considered to be all of our online software. As we have moved since the pandemic to many online software programs, that is one that we will look to increase going further into next year. But again, are we expecting to spend a lot more money on that line? I don't see so, because that was all, when I reviewed that line item, those were all yearly software subscriptions.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Enos.
why do we spend so much on water? That seems an awful lot. Is that because you're watering fields? It can't be.
No, it's because of the
Did you have a-
increase in the water bill. If you live in the city of Taunton, I have been.
Mine hasn't gone up.
Oh, well, my dad has, and many
But this
people
is
have received.
63% more after
You're right. Yep, absolutely. Spent 63.
63% of the line item.
Mhm.
You may want to check with if you have leaks.
We have been working with
Okay.
the building department to help with the plumbing. We did
Okay.
identify one last year. We received a notice from the water department saying, hey, look you're looking like you're
Usage.
spending too much
You
here.
may want to go
We have-
directly to the water department because they could run a dye test.
Yeah, and we usually go through the building department, which
Okay.
the building department will take
Alright.
care of that.
That's all I have. Received and placed on file.
Second.
Made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So voted.
The next one is quarter one for the revolving account. Again, this is July through September 2022. You'll see the accounts for each of the accounts that we have for our revolving account. The beginning balance beginning on July 1st. Any revenue that came through for each of those line items for the first 3 months. Any monies that we have encumbered for that specific account. Any expenses that we have had, and then the balance. So currently, we have a balance for the revolving of a little over $4 million. Some of the encumbrances that we have is $275,000, and that was by the school committee to encumber $250,000 for vestibule work, which we will begin to go out to bid in the next few months for each of our schools, and also the ADA, $25,000 for ADA that to help fix any ADA compliance issues that we have. So that is the reason why we have encumbered for that $275,000. A heavy expense that you might see too, or a bigger expense, that over $1 million under school choice, is the athletic fields. So currently, again, our balance through September 2022, we have a little over $4 million in our revolving account.
Received and placed on file.
Second on discussion. So, the 275, of course, you just explained that to us. Why does it come under school choice? Why is it categorized under school choice?
School choice, now each revolving account has a description of what you can and cannot use it for. With school choice, that is where you can say that it will affect the majority of our students, so that's where you can go ahead and encumber funds for bigger projects, because again, more students will be able to benefit from the whatever we are going to be planning for.
And we've done that in the past. For instance, the press box and other improvements in the football field from a few years ago largely came out of that. Some of our athletic fields have also come out of that. Mr. Cabral.
And also under school choice, Mr. DeMello, we have greater discretion.
Okay, thank you. Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, all those opposed, so voted.
The last budget update is for our grants, again for Q1 through September 2022. You will see the fiscal year for the grant, the name of the grant, the manager, the purpose, the start date, end date, the budget for the grant, how much money we received for the grant, and the grant balance. If you see the first 5 budget items there, or excuse me, grant items, you will see that we have a grant balance of 0. And the reason why we kept that there was because the end date was September 30th, and that is in the first fiscal quarter. Then at the very, very bottom, you can see that currently we have a grant balance of $22.8 million in grants that we still have on hand. Any questions on the grants?
Received and placed on file.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, all those opposed, so voted. And then, finally, we have 2 bills payable warrants, one for fiscal year '22 in the amount of $4,264.51, and another for fiscal 2023 for $1,764,817.74.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the FY 2022 warrant in the amount of $4,264.51.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, all those opposed, so voted. Anybody's pleasure as to fiscal '23.
Motion to approve the FY '23 warrant.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that, but on discussion, I had a few inquiries that Assistant Superintendent Monahan did respond via email just yesterday due to my late arrival. But on page, I believe it's page 17, the voucher number 19076, the amount of $1,299. I'm voting no on that item, and I'd like to follow up with for the next time we meet, more information regarding the contracted terms and conditions that we have with this particular company. I'd like to revisit those conditions and contract, if we don't know that today.
All right, is there any further discussion on the warrant? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, all those opposed, so voted. And finally, facilities update.
Mr. Fiore, can I just make a quick notification? It's a large warrant, just a point of clarification for the public. It's a large warrant of $1.7 million, but $800,000 is coming out of grants. I just wanted the public to know that it's not all coming out of our appropriation.
All right, what's your pleasure on adjournment?
We have a facilities update still, Mr. Chairman?
No, Mrs.
we-
Moynihan said there wasn't anything.
Oh, there isn't. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, all those opposed, we're done.